The Winter War by Priscilla Shirer with Gina Detweiler, Chapter 40, Dragon Fight. Evan huddled under Xavier's shield to avoid the flaming jets of the two dragons fighting like crazy above them. And now there were bone breakers all around them, squawking and flapping their wings. The warriors took in their blood-dipped feathers, their long, sharp talons, their thick, bone-breaking beaks. "What are we going to do, Xavier?" Evan whispered, hoping his big brother had a plan. "Just stay calm," Xavier said. "That bird ate my seed." "Yeah, I know. Just stay cool, little brother. Manuel and I have got you covered. Okay. Listen, don't worry about the bone breakers. Think of them like seagulls on the beach. You remember, Evan?" "Yeah, that time a seagull took a peanut butter sandwich right out of my hand?" "Right. These bone breakers are just like that. Don't be afraid of them. Now, we're going to move together to the edge of the sky pod so we can see what's happening at the fortress before it gets too dark. We'll stay together. Keep the shields up. Evan, just stay between us." He paused. "Manuel, you with us, man?" "Uh-huh." Manuel seemed unable to speak, his eyes darting from the squawking birds to the fighting dragons, taking in the chaos all around them. Instead, he started to count, which was what he did when he was getting fearful. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stay with me now. Just listen to my voice, okay? When I say go, stand up, back to back. Ready? Go. The three boys rose together slowly, pressing their backs against each other. Evan stayed squashed between them, covered by Xavier's and Manuel's shields. Good. Now, walk with me. Easy does it. They moved as a single unit toward the edge of the sky pod. The bone breakers flapped around and scolded them with their revolting screeches. Xavier knew that they wouldn't attack, especially with their shields deployed. The bone breakers wanted to instill fear, and they were doing a pretty good job of it. Xavier focused on his goal, to get to the edge of the pod. "Far enough," said Xavier, stopping their trek. He glanced over to make sure Evan and Manuel were okay. Then he turned to face the mountain. He thought he saw two more specks of white against the dark top of the mountain, reflected by the setting sun. "They're pretty close to the top," Xavier said. "It shouldn't be too long now." "Can you see below? Is the army ready?" asked Manuel in a shaking voice. "I can't tell. It's too dark now." "I hope they're ready. I've had enough of these stupid birds," Evan said. He slashed out at the closest bone breaker with his sword. It shrieked and skittered away. "That's probably the one that ate my seed. I hope it chokes." Suddenly, the two dragons crashed down on the sky pod, both of them badly wounded with large burned spots on their bodies. Tannen had a broken wing and was gulping loudly. They continued to fight on the surface of the sky pod, jets of fire and smoke shooting in all directions. Then the bone breakers swooped onto Tannen, glomming onto his head and pecking at his eyes with their powerful beaks. Tannen cried out in agony, thrashing around to shake them off. "They're going after Tannen!" Without waiting for the others, Evan raised his sword and charged at the attacking birds, leaving the cover of the shields. "Evan!" Xavier shouted. But Evan didn't care. He didn't hear. He let out a warrior cry and leapt on top of Tannen's back, slashing left and right at the bone breakers, screaming at them to leave his dragon friend alone. Xavier ran after him, putting away his own shield and extending his sword. The red dragon swung his great head in Evan's direction, opening his mouth to incinerate him with a fresh blast of his fire breath. Xavier saw only one way to help his brother, dropping his staff. He charged up Tannen's swishing tail and threw himself onto the top of the enemy dragon's head. He grabbed hold of a spike right between the dragon's eyes and held on with one hand. The dragon swung its head to shake him off, then opened its mouth. Xavier cried out as he thrust his sword into the dragon's gaping mouth. He felt his whole arm shudder with the impact and the searing pain as the dragon's fire breath raced up his arm. He gritted his teeth and hung on as the dragon screamed and tipped over backward, crashing to the ground. Xavier was thrown clear and rolled all the way to the edge of the sky pod. He couldn't stop his momentum. He was certain he would keep rolling right over the edge and fall. With one last gasp, he swung out his sword, still in his burned hand, and dug it into the edge of the sky pod. As his legs dipped over the edge, he threw up his other hand and grabbed the sword, the rest of his body dangling helplessly. "Xavier!" Evan shouted. "Manuel, help!" Both boys went running to Xavier, skidding to their knees and grabbing hold of his arms. "Hang on, Xavier!" They heaved with all their might and gradually managed to pull Xavier up over the edge. "Xavier, are you okay?" Evan leaned over his brother, his eyes wide with worry. Xavier's arm looked really bad. His sleeve had burned off, the skin red and puffing up already. The sword dropped from his hand, the outline of its hilt imprinting his palm. "I don't know." Xavier's head felt jarred from the impact, and the fire in his arm seemed to be moving through his entire body. "Man, that was awesome," Evan said once he was sure Xavier was alive. "Is it dead?" "I don't know. Maybe. It fell off the sky pod. Not bad, big brother. Thanks. But your arm, does it hurt?" "Not that much," Xavier lied. He sat up slowly, cradling his arm. "How's Tannen?" As if hearing his name, Tannen cried out sorrowfully. "He's alive, but his eyes..." Evan couldn't finish the sentence. "At least the bone breakers are gone," said Manuel. "As soon as the red dragon went over, they just flew away." "They must have been scared," Evan said. "Yeah," Xavier said, "but not of us. They just don't want to get hit by the fireballs." At nearly the same moment, the lava fireballs began to fall, exploding all around them. They slammed into the sky pod, creating fiery craters from which blasts of smoke erupted. Only this smoke fluttered with 1,000 metallic wings. Ents. My, what a way to end a chapter. Oh well, I guess we'll see what happens next time.